Okay, I hope I'm audible. Can someone confirm if my voice is clear?
Yes, sir, you're audible.
Okay, all right. So now let's continue. So all right. So first of all, before we begin, are there any questions from yesterday? Okay, so let me just anyway quickly do a recap. So we were looking at the Bayes classifier, and then what we were doing yesterday was we have a general model. So basically, your feature space X is there, then you have the labels Y, and then you have an action set. Okay, and this is we call this as C1 up to CM, and your action sets you called it as alpha 1 up to alpha k. Then also we had a loss function which is going from what action you take, what is the actual label, to a real value. Okay, so this was the loss function, and the object as usual was to minimize the what is called as the risk of the classifier, which is the expected value of the loss of what decision you make. Okay, in reality, I mean in comparison to the actual label. This is what we saw, and then further we also did this simplification where we said if you condition on X. Okay, so basically what we are saying is this. So if you just condition on X, okay, if you do this, then the risk can be written as an integral of this form. Right? We don't know what is f of x, but we can understand that f of x is same for all the classifiers. And then if you are able to minimize this, then our Bayes classifier is this. So basically, we need to minimize r of h of x given x for all x. This is what we need to do. All right, and then we also saw the form of this, which is r of h of x given x. Okay, so this is nothing but this value, right? So we are trying to take the expectation of this. So the only thing that is random here is y. So essentially we are going to look at what possible values y could take. Okay, so y could take one of the m values. So we did something like this. We said look at qi of qi of x. Okay, so this is the posterior, and then we look at what is the loss got by h of x compared to y, like something like this. Okay, so here it's not y, it is actually ci. Okay, so this is what we did, and we also saw that the for the 0-1 loss function, this actually turns out to be the same that we have been doing so far. So this is the second proof. Okay, so now we would like to use this in some way in our actual machine learning tasks, right? So nobody is going to give you the priors, nobody is going to give you the class conditional densities. Okay, so what you need to do is you need to look at the data, and from the data you need to infer what is the priors, what is the class conditional densities, and so on. Okay, so this brings us to the next issue, and when we are done with this, you will be ready to implement your own Bayes classifiers. Okay, so the next issue here is what is called as estimators. Okay, so that is what we are going to talk about next. Okay. Okay, so basically, if so, let's look at some simple example. So let us say there is a coin. So then let's say there is a coin with bias, with a unknown bias. So we don't know whether it is a unbiased coin or it is a biased coin. So the probability of head is unknown, and let's say it is P. And from this coin, if we do some tosses, so let us say that we get two heads and a tail. So now, if I were to ask you, what do you think is P? What would be your answer be? So if you were to estimate the value of P, what is a reasonable choice? Can someone tell me? So what's a reasonable choice of P?
0.66.
Okay. Okay. So I guess people all say that it is 0.66 or 2/3. But how do we arrive at that number? Okay. So the idea is we are trying to find out what value of P maximizes the chance of getting this this combination of numbers. So if you plot, for instance, if P was taking values 0 to 1, okay, and if you plot what is the probability of getting this if P was 0. So if P is 0, what's the probability of getting HHT?
0.
Yeah, so this is 0 over here, and it's 0 even for this choice. So essentially what happens is it maximizes at 2/3. Okay, so this is how we came, but this is just a like this I showed for this example, but what we need is a general theory. Okay, we need to estimate the priors, we need to estimate the class conditional densities, so we need a general theory for this. Okay, so that is why we are studying estimators. And now there are several properties of estimators which we should look out for, and once we study the general issues around estimators, then we will close the loop, and then we will talk about how to actually estimate these quantities. Okay, so these things that I'm going to mention are actually fairly general. You will see that they will repeat again and again in the course when we are doing other topics as well. Okay, so the first concept is called as an unbiased estimator. Okay, so what does that mean? So basically, what we saw, an estimator. Okay, an estimator is, what is the definition of an estimator? Estimator is a function, let's say theta hat, this is theta hat. It goes from your n samples of data, right? So let's say this is x1 cross x2. You have n samples of data and it gives you a value in R. So this is your estimator. So basically it's a function of what data you have. Okay, so this is an estimator. Okay. And now suppose this is an estimator for a unknown parameter theta. Okay, so theta hat, which is a function of all the n samples that you have of your data, is an estimator for an unknown parameter theta. Okay, so an unbiased estimator has the property that, so first of all, let me ask this. So is theta hat random? How many of you feel theta hat is random? So value of theta hat, is it a random variable? That's my question. So Ankur says it's random, Rajnish, okay. So everyone is saying it's random. Is there anyone who thinks it is not random? So all of you have come on a Saturday morning and you're here to learn. So why don't you make a guess, yes or no? How many of you feel it is not random? Is there anyone who feels it is not random? Okay, I don't know what's going on. All right, so essentially theta hat is random. Okay, so theta hat is a random quantity. So you can take the expectation of theta hat. Okay, so what is the expectation taken over? What is governing this? Can someone tell me that? See, your theta hat is random, yes. So what is it a function of? What does it depend truly on? So for instance, if you look at this, right? So if I took the estimator for the previous case, so let's say look at the sample mean estimator, sample mean for the previous case, right? For sample mean, let us say you have got a head and tail. The sample mean is, right, what is this? This is equal to P, sorry, 1 over 3 summation xi, xi equal to 1 if head. So this is actually going to be 2 over 3. That is how you came up with the estimate 2 over 3. Okay, so my question is, what is the unknown thing that governs this distribution? What is the thing that is the expectation is taken over? So x is correct, but x is governed. Okay, so Rajneesh says it is x, but x is governed by a distribution by a parameter theta, right? So x is a distribution, but which is governed by an unknown parameter theta. So basically, the expectation is taken over the unknown parameter theta, and if that turns out to be theta, then the estimator is said to be unbiased estimator. Okay. So I know this can be confusing. So let me take a few examples to make it clear. Okay, so let us look at the sample mean. So let's first of all look at sample mean. Okay, so sample mean of xi's where I equal to 1 to n. The distribution is coming from a normal distribution with mu, and variance, let us say we know. Okay, so this is known variance. Oh, this is an unknown parameter. Okay, so now so basically sample mean is we want to find out what is the expected value of 1 over n summation xi. Okay, so this, let's do the algebra. So we will get 1 over n outside. Okay, and you can push the expectation inside. Due to the linearity of expectation, you will have something like this. Okay, so now what is expected value of xi? What is expected value of xi for this example that we have taken? Manan, what is expected value of si? Mu. Okay, very good. All right, so that's why we get this as 1 over n times n mu, which is equal to mu. So basically, what happened here? So basically, we were taking expected value of mu n hat, this is what is called as the estimator for the sample mean. Okay, and then it turned out to be the mu, the parameter which we are unknown parameter. Okay, so this is what essentially we meant when we said that estimator is unbiased. Okay, so when you take expected value with respect to any parameter mu, and you look at the sample mean estimator defined like this, you will always expect to get that mu back. Okay, so this is what you will get. But in reality, when you do mu n hat, is mu n hat always going to be mu? Is mu n hat always going to be mu? What do you people think? Yes? Would you like to? Yeah. So Ankur says no. What about others? Is mu n hat always going to be mu? Obviously not, right? Because mu n hat is random. Okay, so it is not going to be mu all the time. But if you were to choose one value which is a very good characteristic of it, that is going to be mu. Okay, so essentially what you have is you are trying to estimate the unknown parameter mu. Okay, and no matter what the unknown parameter is, the expected value of your unbiased estimator is always going to be that parameter which you are interested in. If it is unbiased, this is always going to be true. Okay, so this is what is the meaning of unbiased estimator. So this is an important thing for you to understand. Okay, there is, when you learn machine learning even more, you will have something called as bias variance trade-off. So we will also do today some bias variance trade-off. So you have to understand this. I hope this is clear to everybody. Okay, so this is what is first important thing, that is called as an unbiased estimator. Fine. So let's look at second issue here. So now let me take a different color. So is unbiasedness enough? That is the next question. Okay, so obviously biased is good, but is having biased is bad. So if you are having an unbiased estimator, is that enough? What do you people think? Is there any problem if you have just unbiased? Anyone can point out what is the issue if you are, suppose let's say I give you an unbiased estimator for trying to estimate your class conditional densities. I will give you an unbiased estimator. Is that enough? What is the problem? What is going to be the problem if I just give you an unbiased estimator? Anyone wants to say? Okay, so let's look at some example. So basically, we have seen one estimator, right? So we saw that Mn, which is equal to 1 over n. So let's put it as capital N, summation xi, I equal to 1 to n as one estimator. And we saw expected value of Mn is equal to mu. So second thing that we can also do, instead of looking at Mn, so there are n data points given to you, but I will not use all of them. I will use the estimator, this estimator. Okay, I will use mu tilde, the estimator, which is given by M1 plus M2 by 2. Okay, this is my second estimator. Someone else, let us say, comes up with a third estimator. He calls it rho, and he just says it is just equal to M1, whatever is the value of M1. Okay, but if you see, expected value of mu tilde will also be mu, and expected value of rho is also going to be mu. Okay, so this is one set of issue. So next, if you see a Poisson random variable, so if you look at an exponential random variable, okay, so exponential random variables have this this kind of a density, okay, lambda e power minus lambda x. Okay, so the property that exponential has is expected value of x is equal to variance of x is equal to 1 over lambda. I hope it is 1 over lambda, or no, it's lambda. Okay, so yeah, so if you have something like this, okay, so then you can have two estimators. So let me call the estimators as an, which is 1 over n summation xi, that could be one estimator, or you can have bn, which is 1 over n summation xi minus an whole squared. And both of these estimators are actually going to be unbiased estimators for your unknown parameter lambda. Okay, this you can show. So how do you decide which estimator to use? Do you see the problem? Because I have given you several candidate unbiased estimators, and the question now that remains to be answered is that how do you choose which of the unbiased estimators are going to be used for your problem? So that is what I'm asking now. So what do you feel? How do we choose it? Siddharth, can you ask what is it that you are saying? I don't follow your question, so if you can come.
Yes, sir. I just wanted to, sir, as you said, like before going here, you said that if I give you an unbiased estimator,
Yeah,
then will it be good? So,
okay.
like I can correlate that. What is the correlation? If you give me any random, like the same question that you again ask after this explanation, that what is the, like, how do I decide? That was
Okay. But now, in the current context, do you have any answers?
No, sir, not right now.
Okay, so that is fair enough. I don't want you to like. Of course, you don't know this because you're learning it. But any case, I just wanted to see if anyone has any guesses. But it's fine. So now the issue is, can you tell me which of the two would you use? If you are intuitively speaking, I am having n data samples. I will take the average here versus I will take just one data point. Which of the two will you use? Will you use 1 or 3? Does anyone want to? You can just type it in the chat. What you think is a good choice? 1 or 3? Okay. So again, 1 is where you are using all the data points. 3 is where I'm using only the first data point. Okay, so everyone seems to say 1. The more data points we cover, the better. Yes. So essentially, your intuition is right. The reason why we choose 1 is that the variance of the estimator is lower. Okay. So if I were to plot that, so variance of this estimator, we have done this, so I will not repeat how it came, but variance of this is going to be sigma squared by n. The variance of this is going to be M1 is going to be sigma squared. Okay, so when you are trying to estimate something, okay, you are trying to estimate what is the mu. Do you want more variance or less variance? So the less variance is better, right? Because when you have less variance, your estimator will look something like this. You will say with high probability it is there in a smaller interval. So this is with the low variance case. This is the low variance case. And a high variance case, it could look something like this. Okay, both of them are at the same unbiased value mu, but when you estimate, you are not going to get mu all the time, right? That you understood. Either you'll get this point, you'll get this point, you'll get this point, something like that you'll get. But if you have a less variance, then your points will not be spread out too much from the mean mu. So low variance is always better. Okay, so that is what we are going to target to get. Okay, so this is the reason why we choose low variance against high variance. Okay. So now, so the idea is we want to have, if possible, unbiased estimator. And then, if possible, we want to have low variance. So that is what is the idea that we are going to go for. Okay. And then, even more than this, there is one more property that we desire. Okay, so we could also want a property which is called as consistency. Okay, so what is this consistency saying? So basically, we want, whenever we are having an estimator, suppose we take an estimator theta n. Oh, I'm sorry. Suppose you take an estimator theta, so which is based on n samples. What we want is, like, as n tends becomes larger and larger, we would like it to approach the true value of theta. Okay, so this is in some convergence in probability we can take. Okay, so let me explain what is convergence in probability. See, basically, why are we discussing this? So essentially what we started is, like, we are looking at the case where you want to build your own Bayes classifier. Okay, so to build your own Bayes classifier, you need to know the priors, you need to know the class conditional densities. Okay, so then we said, okay, so we have to study estimators. Okay, and when you looked at estimators, you saw that biasness is a desired property. And amongst biasness, what you further desire is low variance. Okay, what is consistency saying? That this low variance, it's not just low variance, but the error is also going to 0. So that is what we are trying to say. As n tends becomes larger and larger, this goes to the true probability. Okay, so there is a difference, right? Biasness and consistencies are different property. Something may be unbiased, but it could always be having it, even as n tends to infinity, it may not go to theta. Okay, so that is what. So let me say how. So suppose you have a estimator theta hat, okay, and it actually knows what is the mu. Okay, so it will always be saying mu, but it will, at the end of it, it will add some noise of its own. Okay, so this could happen, right? So this is the estimator. Suppose I have theta hat, it will always identify this correctly, but at the end of it, it will add some noise and give it back to you. And the expected value of noise, this could be 0. Okay, so what I'm saying is, let's say this. So basically, theta hat, this estimator that I'm constructing, so let us say theta height prime is actually equal to 1 over n summation xi, I equal to 1 to n. Okay, plus a sample z. Okay, where z is drawn, it's an independent sample drawn from mean 0, variance 1. So this is what I will do. Suppose this is my estimator. Okay. Now, is it unbiased? Yes, it is unbiased, because if I take expected value of theta hat prime, I'm going to get this whole calculation we have seen before. This is mu, and then expected value of z is 0. So it's unbiased, but it will always give you some noise even if you take n larger and larger, this will always give you some noise. So this is not a desirable desirable estimator. So hence what we need is that as n tends to infinity, we need to be approaching closer and closer to the actual theta. Is this point clear to people between consistency and biasness? Yes or no? Okay, so there are a few people whom I don't hear from. I hope it is clear to everybody. Okay, yeah. All right. So now this is what we want to desire. So basically, what we desire is this unbiasedness, and then we also desire consistency. Okay. So now it turns out that so I did not mention what it means to say when as n becomes larger and larger, you get closer and closer to theta. The notion that we use is called as convergence in probability. This you have seen already, but let me repeat. Okay, so basically what we are saying is, so if you look at an estimator for a particular n, theta n, okay, and then if you look at the difference between this and the actual theta, so this is a theta n hat is a random variable, right? It is a function of the n samples that you chose. Theta is a unknown parameter, but it's a fixed parameter. Okay. Now what we want is that this error, so this is an error, we don't want this error to be greater than some epsilon. Okay, so for all epsilon which is greater than 0, this is like some error level. So you think of this as error level. Okay, you don't want your error to be beyond some error level. Okay, you can choose epsilon equal to 0.01 for instance. Okay, this error level, if you take the limit as n tends to infinity, okay, this has to go to 0. This is what is meant by convergence in probability. Okay, so you don't want this error level for any error level, no matter how small the error you choose. Okay, if you take sufficiently large number of samples, you want your estimator to converge to the actual value that you are seeking to learn. Okay, this is a very desirable property in learning. Okay, very desirable property, right? Because you want to be able to approach the true theta. Okay, so this is what is meant by consistency. Okay, so the idea of using a unbiased estimator which is also consistent, okay, with least variance. Okay, so what is our design? What is our design? Desirata. This is called as, like, what are all the things that we like? We like unbiasedness. Okay, we like low variance, and then we like consistency. Okay, so now what it turns out is we can always guarantee consistency. Okay, so that is, so otherwise the general procedure of having all the three is hard, but we can always get consistency, and that is something that is anyway desirable, because even though it is not biased, if it is consistent, it is okay, because if you take sufficiently large n, then your error level will come down. Okay, so I will give you an example of a consistent estimator which is actually biased. Okay, I will give you an example of that later, but what I'm saying is consistency is a desirable property. Okay, so if you are able to get consistency, that is good, and fortunately there is a way to always get consistent estimator with what is known as maximum likelihood estimators. Okay, so that is what we are going to study now. Okay, this is a theory which will always give you consistent estimators, and that is desirable. Even though it's biased, it's fine. It will always give you consistent estimators. So if you take sufficiently large samples, you are okay. And since in nowadays people are collecting data left, right, and center, so this might be okay, because you are always assured to have lot of data. Okay, so let's look at maximum likelihood estimator. But before that, let me show you an example of consistent but biased estimator. Okay, let me show you an example of this. Okay, so before we go to maximum likelihood, I will give you an example. But even before that, I would like to know if these issues are clear to everybody. So far, everything is all right. Can I have a quick poll? Yes. At least one student has to say something. Okay, all right. So now coming back, let's look at this example of a consistent but unbiased estimator. So what we are given is xi I equal to 1 to n. Okay, this is coming from some distribution whose expected value is equal to mu, and variance, let us say, it's not important, but let's say it's 1. So some samples we are getting n of them. Okay, so now what I am going to construct is a estimator, let us say Rn, okay, which is going to be 1 over n plus 1 summation xi I equal to 1 to n. Okay, what is this? So this looks like exactly like your mean estimator, right? Sample mean. It looks like sample mean, but is it the same as sample mean? What is the difference? Yes, what is the difference? Any difference between this and the sample mean estimator? What is the difference?
This is divided by n plus 1. We are increasing n in this case.
Yes, yes. So your sample mean had 1 over n summation I equal to 1 to n xi. This is what we had, but instead of taking 1 over n, I will take 1 over n plus 1. Okay, so I'm claiming that Rn is a consistent estimator of mu. That is what we are going to show. But Rn is not a biased, it's actually a biased estimator. Why is that? So if I take expected value of Rn, okay, this is nothing but 1 over n plus 1 into n into mn, right? Isn't that correct? Because I will get 1 over n summation xi. Okay, this, I hope I don't have to explain this. So if it's not clear, you let me know. See, what I'm doing is okay, let me do it anyway, since nobody is saying anything. So 1 over n plus 1 into n into 1 over n summation xi. That's what I wrote. Okay, that's the trick I did here. So now when you write like this, what you can do is expected value of Rn is equal to this whole thing becomes n over n plus 1 expected value of mn. Okay, so this will be expected value of Rn is equal to n over n plus 1 of mu. This we saw. Therefore, expected value of Rn is not equal to mu. Okay, so hence Rn is not okay, maybe I will give this as for you to read. Okay, so I will share you the video and you can watch that part, and then you can ask me questions or something. I don't know. Okay, let me just go into other issues. So the point is, your consistent, like if you have a consistent estimator, it doesn't necessarily mean it is unbiased. Okay. Okay, looks like I got disconnected. So what was this? Where did you hear me last? Am I audible? Let me just stop sharing my screen if there is bandwidth issues. So where did we stop? I mean, where did you miss me? I think I got briefly disconnected.
So we have proved Rn is not biased.
Yeah. It's not unbiased, or RNA. Okay, Rn converges in probability to mu. This we can show. Okay, that's what I was saying. So yeah, so there is a way to show this, and I will give you this as an assignment to do. Okay, so I will share the video, and then you can, or maybe I will properly frame it as an assignment and make you do one by one step and do this. Okay, but this you can show. So basically, here is an example where Rn is a consistent estimator, but not a biased estimator. Okay, so not an unbiased estimator. So this is why consistency does not mean a bias. But what is the advantage of consistency? If you have enough number of samples, you will get the true mean. Okay, so that is where maximum likelihood is coming to picture. So maximum likelihood estimator. So that is the next topic. Okay, so before that, I forgot one important thing called as bias variance trade-off. So let's do that first. So essentially, if you want to find how good an estimator is, so if you want to estimate goodness of an estimator, what you do is you look at the mean square error of an estimator. Okay, so mean square error of theta hat. This is what we want to do. And this is given by the expected value of theta hat minus the actual estimator that you are interested in, the actual parameter that you are interested in, and look at the squared error. So this is what you want to minimize. Okay, so an estimator with lower mean squared error is desirable. Okay, so you will see this again in learning theory. When we are doing this, again you will have a mean square error of a hypothesis. Okay, we will see this later, but now in the context of mean square error of an estimator, we are defining it as the is this difference, theta hat minus theta whole square. Okay, so let us prove a quick theorem. Basically, mean square error of a estimator is given by bias of that estimator square plus variance of that estimator. Okay, so this is a very nice property, and this is also going to come in when you are doing overfitting, underfitting, and all. These concepts will get repeated. Okay, so this is an interesting, important property, and let's try to prove it. Okay, so let's see. So basically, we will start with the definition of MSE, which is given by this. Okay, so we will split it into two parts. So this is an easy algebraic proof. Okay, so nothing really complicated. Let's add and divide expected value of theta hat. Okay, so now question. Yeah, so when we have something like this, yeah, so you can actually use your regular A plus B formula and expand it. Okay, there is nothing wrong because you're taking expectation over this entire thing. You can actually expand this and write. Okay, so this will be expected value of theta hat minus expected value of theta hat whole square plus so let me know if I make any mistakes, because I could make a mistake here because it is so many notations. Okay, so this is what it is. And now we will use linearity of expectations and then open this up. Okay, so this is the first term. Okay, second term. And here we have, so if you look at this properly, so this is a constant, the expected value of theta hat is a constant. Theta is also a constant. Okay, it's a number, even though that is the parameter that we are taking the expectation over. It's a number when you treat it as a when you write it like this. This is going to be a number. See, what do I mean by that? So you know that variance is equal to variance of x is equal to expected value of x minus mu whole squared, right? This kind of thing you have seen. This mu is a number. Okay. Likewise, this entire thing is a number. So what we will have is we can pull that out. Expected value of theta hat minus theta. Okay, this is a number. We pull it out, and then the expectation is applying only to this theta hat minus expected value of theta hat. Okay. So is that clear to people what I'm saying here? So this is a number, and even this is a number. Yes, I don't know how people are following this. Do you follow why these two quantities are numbers? Bhavna, do you follow it?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so I understand that it is becoming too much theoretical, but this is something that you have to learn, because I don't want to conduct a course like a MOOC. Okay, so it's not a MOOC course. We are trying to really understand this in a detailed way. So whenever your machine learning algorithm fails to work, I don't want you to try another algorithm without really understanding what's going on. Okay, so for that you need to understand the theory. So that is the reason why we are dwelling so much into the theory. All right, so I hope you will appreciate it at some point, if not today. So basically, when you have these kind of things, this is a number, this is a number. So this essentially, if you see, this is nothing but the bias. Okay, this is called as the bias. So expected value of theta hat, if it is equal to theta, this is called unbiased. If it is not equal to theta, then it is this difference is called as the bias of the class of the estimator. So this first term, it resembles this. Okay, so this is the variance of the estimator. Okay, plus this term is an expectation of a square. The inner fellow is a constant. So this expectation is now having no value. So we can write this as expectation of theta hat minus theta whole squared. This expectation just goes away because this is a constant. And then this is a constant, but so let me write that 2 times expected value of theta hat minus theta. Okay. And if you push this expectation inside, this is a constant. This becomes expected value of theta hat minus expected value of theta hat, which is equal to 0. So essentially what we get is that mean square error is variance of theta hat plus bias. Okay, so if you want, okay, now what is the implication of this formula? See, mean square error, if you really think about it, it is what is used in machine learning. You want to minimize the error that you are making. Okay, whatever error that you make either comes from the error in the estimation process itself. So this you will see in the bias hypothesis when you are having a general hypothesis. The error that you make in a machine learning algorithm either comes because your hypothesis class is too big. Okay, this is that part, or there is a bias which comes if the hypothesis set is too small. Okay, so this you will see again when we are talking in the learning theory, when you are trying to do overfitting versus underfitting trade-off, right? So let me repeat again. So whenever there is a machine learning algorithm, if you want to have the best prediction performance, what you need to do is you need to minimize the mean square error. Okay, you need to have low value of mean square error. So whenever you have some error, either that error is coming because your hypothesis class is very big. As a result, there is a lot of variance, which means it is coming from this part, or your hypothesis class is small and it is not approximating the true thing well, which means it has bias. Okay, so this formula is pretty general, and this will come again. Okay, so let me just summarize what we have discussed so far. I know this is a lot of theory, but this has its place. Okay, when you see the bigger picture, when you really go through it step by step, you will understand the importance of this. So essentially what we have been doing is Bayes classifier. Okay, this is what we started with. So for a Bayes classifier, now we know completely how to come up with the optimal classifier. This is the best classifier. Nothing else can beat it. Okay, this is proved, and this has been proved years back. Okay, so there are reasons why people don't use it. The simplest being, you don't know the class conditional densities. You don't have a good idea of the priors and things like that. That is why we cannot use it all the time. But when you can use it, you have to use it, because this will do better than any of the other estimators. Okay, sorry, any of the other machine learning algorithms. Okay, so the main thing is, for a Bayes classifier, you need to know the priors, you need to know the class conditional densities. And then in order to do that, we need to have a proper estimator for these parameters. And estimators themselves are important, like a very big field in statistics. So there are different types of estimators. So an unbiased estimator is a good estimator, because it is going to always be centered around the actual parameter of interest. Okay, it does not go away from theta. So that is a good desirable estimator. Okay, this was the first concept that we saw. We saw some examples over here. Okay, then we realized that just having unbiasedness is not enough, because there could be different estimators like this which have different variances. Okay, so we would like to have a minimum variance unbiased estimator, because that will minimize your chance of having error. So then further, along with minimum variance, less variance, we also need consistency, because even though it is unbiased, you can have examples where it does not, even as n tends to infinity, it does not go to the true value. There is always some error that we don't want. Okay, so that's what we saw over here. Fine. So that is why we need a consistent, like we need a procedure to come up with the consistent estimators. That is what is the, if at all you want only one, we will choose consistency. That is what I'm saying here. Okay, if you just want one, let us go with consistency. Okay, and that is when we saw some of the examples, and finally we came to the idea that, see, consistency is saying that as n tends to infinity, you are approaching the true value of the unknown parameter theta. Okay, so that is what consistency says. But if you want to measure the error at some n, okay, so okay, the error goes to 0, but what about a particular n? Okay, if you were to fix at a particular n, what is the error that I'm going to see? Okay, and we saw that that is equal to bias plus variance. Okay, so either the error can come because there is a bias in the estimator, or the variance, the estimator itself fluctuates a lot. Okay, so this is what we saw today. Okay, so this is where I think this is a good point to stop, because I don't see people responding much. So are there any questions so far, or should we just do a little bit of MLE, or shall we stop here? I think we'll stop here, because it's a weekend also. So let me just stop here. So I will just wait for any questions. Otherwise, have a good weekend, everybody.
Hello.